Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me what is mean by input tax credit, which we had studied in the last lecture? Yes. The last lecture we had studied about the input tax credit and how it is applicable and how it is to be availed. Did you understand or not? Yes or no? Should I repeat or not required to repeat? Tell me. Yes. Can anybody tell me what is, in simple language, can anybody tell me what is the input tax credit? Yes. Jayashree. Am I audible? We had already seen what is mean by input tax credit. So input tax credit means what? Here we had seen the chain of manufacturer to consumer. Okay, so the product which is manufactured by the manufacturer, the same product will be sent towards the distributor, right? So after distributor, the same product is going towards the wholesaler, and from wholesaler the product will be sent towards the retailer, and retailer is the person who will sell the products to the consumer. Getting this? So at that time, whatever tax which is paid in the during the earlier process, the same tax will be, there is no need to pay once again that tax because the tax is already paid. So in case of GST, it is the single tax for single nation. That's why whatever tax paid into the earlier stages, this tax will be, there is no need to pay this tax. That is something about input tax credit. Getting this? So whenever you are going to submit the GSTR number 1 or GSTR number 2, at that time, every supplier has to get the input tax credit. So input tax credit means what? It is the process of availing the tax benefit which is paid by earlier supplier. That is something about input tax credit. Getting this? So due to this input tax credit, what will happen? So I will decrease my tax liabilities. For example, when I purchase raw material of rupees 100, at that time, suppose I have paid tax of rupees 20. Getting this? So whenever I will sell this product to my customer, to my wholesaler, at that time the same tax liability will be carried forward to me. The tax which is already paid by me towards my supplier, the same tax I will not pay once again because it is already paid. Okay, and that tax liability I will reduce that much tax liability from my actual tax liability. That is nothing but input tax credit. Okay, so this we had seen in the last lecture. Then now let us start with the periodicity of returns. Means what type of, as a manufacturer, as a supplier, or as a dealer, or as a retailer, which type of forms we have to pay. So first one is the GSTR1. So GSTR1 is related to, this is the form which is related to outward supply made by the taxpayer. Means what? Whenever you are going to sell goods and services, at that time whatever goods and services you have outwarded, so amount of that, so details of this we are fulfilling through GSTR1. That is something about outward supply. Whatever goods and services you are selling, so details of that you have to upload on the GSTN portal, and this should be 10th of the next following month. Means what? Whatever goods and services you have sold out in the February, up to the 10th of March, you have to file the GSTR1. Getting this? So this GSTR1 is regarding to your outward supply. Then as a manufacturer, I can sell the finished goods. At that time, the statement of this finished goods, I have to upload with the help of GSTR1. But as a manufacturer, I can also purchase raw material from my suppliers. So whatever inward you have taken from your supplier, again you have to upload these inwards, this statement of this raw material to GST and council through GSTR2. So when I should have to upload this GSTR2, that is 5th of next month. Means what? Whatever material I have purchased in the month of February, I have to upload GSTR2 in the 5th of, till the 5th of March of next month. Getting this? Means what? GSTR1 has to be fulfilled as well as GSTR2 has to be fulfilled towards the GSTN council or GSTN network. Then GSTR3 is related to your monthly returns. So every service provider, every manufacturer has to provide or has to upload GSTR3, and this GSTR3 is related to your monthly returns. And you as a manufacturer, as a service provider, what you have to do? You have to upload this GSTR3 number form on 20th of the next month. Means what? Whatever is the turnover of February, you have to upload this GSTR3 form on the 20th of the next month. Means what? Up to 20th of March, you have to fulfill or you have to upload this GSTR3 form. So GSTR3 is related to your monthly returns. Then GSTR4 is related to, it is in case of small supplier whose turnover is less than 20 lakhs, for whom there is GSTR4. So GSTR4 will be filled quarterly basis. So the last date of filling the GSTR24 is 18th of the month of next quarter. Next quarter के 18th तारीख तक, next quarter चालू होने के बाद next month के 18th date तक we have to upload the GSTR4. Now GSTR5 is related to periodic return by non-resident foreign taxpayer. Means what? Non-resident foreign taxpayer means what? This person has not registered under GST Act, but this person is doing business in India. Okay, so he has to also file the GST return through GSTR form number 5. So this, when the last date is the 7 days from the last day of registration or 20th of the subsequent month after the completion of month, you have to fill this GSTR5 returns. Now next is the GSTR6 return. This return is for input service distributor. Now input service distributor means what? This is the person who is providing services only one retailer or one manufacturer. Getting this? Means what? He is not selling, means what? Apart from single manufacturer, he is not having another customers. Getting this? As per my requirement, one input service distributor is supplying me goods and services as per my requirement. At that time, he has also to be registered and he has to fulfill GSTR number 6 on 13th of the next month. Then GSTR7 is the return on tax deducted at source, and this GSTR7 should be submitted 10th of the next month. Okay, and GSTR7 is the return filed by the e-commerce. E-commerce companies means which companies? Can anybody tell me? E-commerce operators or e-commerce companies. Which are the e-commerce companies? Yes, anybody? Can you give me examples of e-commerce company? In the last lecture, I think we had already discussed about this.
Amazon, Flipkart.
Yes, Amazon is there, Flipkart is there, as well as some of the software companies who are delivering their goods and services through internet. That is something about e-commerce companies. So all e-commerce companies has to fulfill this GSTR 8 form, and this should be the 10th of the next month. Means what? Whatever is the turnover of February, I have to file the returns on the 10th of March, up to the 10th of March. Then GSTR 9 is related to your annual return. Okay, so annual return will be paid, or it will be filed once in the year, and last date of filing annual return is the 30th of December of next financial year. And last form is GSTR 10. It is your final return, and this final return should be submitted on 20th of the succeeding month. So these are the various GST return files forms are available. So first is related to outward, second is related to inward supply, third is related to monthly return, fourth is related to quarterly return. So again, it depends upon your nature of your turnover. If your turnover is about 20 lakhs, that time there is no need to file the quarterly return. You have to go for monthly return. GSTR 5 is for non-resident. GSTR 6 is for input service distributor. GSTR 7 is for TDS, that is tax deducted at source. And GSTR 8 is for e-commerce companies. GSTR 9 is for annual returns, and GSTR 10 is for final return. Okay, now next one is the reversal of input tax credit. Reversal यानी क्या होता है? Whatever input tax credit you will enjoy, you have to, the input tax credit will be reversed. Means what? Whatever credit you will be getting, it will be not allowed to you if you don't fulfill the conditions. So first condition क्या है? The failure to pay supplier within 180 days of the date of invoice. Means what? If you have not paid the supplier's bill within 180 days, at that time whatever credit you have enjoyed, it will be reversed. Means what? It will be taken back. That is something about reversal of input tax credit. Means what? I should not, means what? Entire liability of tax I have to pay. I cannot get the input tax credit if I did not pay my supplier's amount within 180 days. 180 days yani how many months? It is 6 months. So once the invoice is issued by the supplier, then once invoice is issued, within 6 months you have to make the payment. And if you make the payment after 6 months, then you will be not allowed to enjoy the input tax credit given by the supplier. Okay, so at that time, whatever in reverse, whatever is the input tax credit you have been enjoyed, it will be get reversed through the software. Then if you have taken the goods and services not for business sale, not for business purpose, so you have used these goods and services for personal purpose. Means what? You are not using these goods and services for manufacturing activity or for reselling activity. That time, if you have taken the goods and services from your supplier, and if you are using it for your own purpose at that time also, because if you are used for own purpose at that time, it will not reflect into GSTR 1 form. Getting this? अगर मैंने कुछ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज परचेस किया, तो मैंने क्या करना चाहिए? मेरा इनपुट GSTR 2 में उसका एंट्री रहेगी, एंड मंथली मेरा एंट्री GSTR 1 में भी होना चाहिए. अगर मैं खुद यूज करता हूं, इसका मतलब GSTR 1 में उसकी एंट्री होगी नहीं. Getting this? So at that time, it will be considered that these goods and services has not resold. Getting this? So due to which it will be considered as the goods and services you have used for personal purpose. And if you use these goods and services for personal purpose, at that time your input tax credit will be get reversed. Next is the goods and services utilized for producing or supplying exempted goods and services. Exempted means what? Where GST will be 0%. So if you are taking the availing the input tax credit on such kind of goods, that is zero rated goods, at that time whatever input tax credit you will enjoy, it will be get reduced, because on the basis of this software you will find which type of products you are selling, whether it is zero rated or 5%, 12%, 18% or 28%. अगर आपका goods and services zero rated में आता है, at that time again you will not get this benefit. So at that time again input tax credit will be get reversed. then supplies any ineligible under section 17(5) of GST Act. So जो supply ineligible रहेगा, ineligible means what? This supply will be not considered as a supply. So if you are supplying such kind of goods and services, at that time again you will not avail the input tax credit. If you have availed this input tax credit, after some time it will be get reversed. And last one is the transition from registered regular dealer to the composite dealer. Registered regular dealer means what? Here the rate of GST will be fixed, like either you will be in slab of 5% or 12% or 18% or 28%. But in case of composite dealer, these rates are not applicable. So you have to pay fixed amount of tax. Composite जो dealer होता है उसको क्या करना पड़ता है? Fixed amount of tax every year he has to pay. Means what? Their turnover limit is not there. अगर आप ट्रांजिशन हो रहा है, ट्रांसफर हो रहा है, कहां से? रजिस्टर्ड डीलर से कंपोजिट डीलर को अगर ट्रांसफर हो रहा है, at that time you will not enjoy the input tax credit, and whatever input tax credit you have availed, this will be get reversed. So this is about the reversal of input tax credit. So these are the few condition. पहला कंडीशन, सप्लायर का पेमेंट अगर 6 महीने के अंदर मैंने नहीं किया तो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट आईटीसी रिवर्स हो जाएगी. गुड्स पर्सनल यूज के लिए यूज किया तो आईटीसी रिवर्स हो जाएगी. गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज, अगर एग्जम्प्टेड गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इफ यू हैव टेकन and if you have avail, if you have claim for ITC, so this will be again reverse. Then supply ineligible कहा गया, कहां से? इनपुट जीएसटी एक्ट 2017 ने जो सप्लाई को इनएलिजिबल कर दिया, उसके ऊपर अगर आपको आईटीसी मिलता है तो दैट विल बी आल्सो रिवर्स. एंड लास्ट वन इज ट्रांसफर फ्रॉम रजिस्टर्ड रेगुलर डीलर टू कंपोजिट डीलर. अगर ये हो गया तो दैट टाइम your input tax credit will be get reversed. Okay, then time limit for claiming input tax credit. So when what will be the maximum time up to that period I can claim for ITC. So input tax credit can be availed against the any invoice or debit note or credit note before the end of following dates, whichever is earlier. So which will be proofs? So first will be your invoice. So to get the input tax credit, I should have to upload the invoice which I got from my supplier. If I don't upload the invoice before 10th of the date, that time I will not get the input tax credit. So either you should have valid proof of invoice. Invoice means what? It is the statement of your bill. If invoice is not given by your supplier, at that time you should have to submit me debit note. I can upload the debit note or the credit note. I have to upload either invoice or debit note or credit note. But getting this, so before the end of the following dates, whichever is the earlier. So there are 3 dates. First is the due date of GST return filing for the month of September of the next financial year. Okay, so this is the due date of GST return filing. This is the first date. Second is the date of filing annual return for the financial year. So annual return भरने का जितना जो भी date रहेगा, this date will be also considered. And next is the for the financial year 2021 period to be claimed ITC. कब हम लोगों ने ITC के लिए claim किया है? It was extended to the March 22. ये तीनों में से जो date earlier रहेगा, this will be your maximum time limit to claim the input tax credit. So first date is the due date of GST filing, GST return filing, and this due date will be available on GST portal. That you should have to know. Second is the date of filing annual returns. Okay, that also you have to consider. And last one is the last date of getting the input tax credit. ये तीनों में से जो earlier लेगा तब तक आपने GST इनपुट क्रेडिट का इनपुट टैक्स का क्रेडिट लेना चाहिए, अदरवाइज इट विल बी नॉट एलिजिबल टू यू. देन नेगेटिव लिस्ट ऑफ जीएसटी इनपुट क्रेडिट. अभी नेगेटिव लिस्ट यानी क्या है कि दिस इज द लिस्ट ऑन व्हिच जीएसटी विल बी नॉट एप्लीकेबल. ओके, सो मोटर व्हीकल फॉर ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ द पर्सन हैविंग अप्रूव्ड seating arrangement not more than 13%. So if there is the any service provider who is providing the services through the motor vehicle and whose capacity is 13%, sorry 13 persons including driver, so for such kind of motor vehicle, for such kind of services, GST will be not applicable. Try to understand. So transport vehicle whose capacity is 13%, including driver, for whom GST is not applicable. So that's why this is in the negative list of GST input credit, where input credit will be not given. So tax will be applicable, but input credit will be not given. Second, the services received to motor vehicles, vessels, and or aircraft, such as general insurance, servicing industry, repairs and maintenance. If you are doing such kind of businesses, at that time, again, you will not get the GST input credit. अगर जनरल इंश्योरेंस रहेगा, सर्विसिंग का एक्टिविटी रहेगा या रिपेयर एंड मेंटेनेंस का एक्टिविटी रहेगा फॉर with respect to motor vehicles, vessels and aircraft, for such categories the input credit of GST will be not eligible. Then input credit of foods and beverage, outdoor catering, beauty treatments, health services, cosmetic and plastic surgeries, leasing, renting, hiring of motor vehicles, and life insurance and health insurance companies whose GST input credit will be not availed. Okay. Next is the work contract services when supplied for construction of immovable property. So in this case also, input credit of GST will be not eligible. And goods and services or both received by non-resident taxable person except on the goods imported by him. So these are the negative list of GST input credit. Negative list of GST input credit means what? For these activities, tax will be charged, but input credit will be not availed. Means whatever tax, means what entire tax liability these persons has to pay. So this is about the negative list of input GST credit, where the tax credit will be not available. Now, next is the late fees for non-annual GST returns. If any supplier fails to pay or to file the non-annual GST return. Non-annual GST return means what? The GST return may be monthly return or quarterly return. अगर कोई सप्लायर नॉन एनुअल जीएसटी रिटर्न भरने में फेल होता है, at that time how much will be the late fee? So see, so as per the previous act 2017 GST Act, before making the amendment, what was the situation? Let us discuss first and then we will go to the latest amendment. So if any taxpayer misses out the GST return filing deadline, then he will be liable to pay 100 rupees per day as a GST as under CGST Act and 100 rupees per day under SGST Act. Total GST late fee per day will be rupees 200. Out of this 200 rupees, 100 rupees as a GST fine or GST late fee which goes to the CGST, that is the central GST, and 100 rupees for the state GST. So late fee per day for non-annual GST return was rupees 200. Getting this? Then how much maximum late fee government can charge to the suppliers? So maximum late fee will be up to 5,000. जब तक 5,000 रुपए नहीं होते तब तक इसका GST का late fee बढ़ता जाता. Getting this? Now, after as per the new amendment, what happened? As per the old amendment, every taxpayer has to pay 100 rupees late fine for CGST Act and 100 rupees for SGST. So total tax liability, sorry, total late fees for per day it was rupees 200. Okay. After that, the maximum late fee will be charged by the supplier was rupees 5,000. तब तक उसका कैलकुलेशन चालू रहता था as per old GST Act 2017. Then after that, what we have done in the year 2020, we have done some certain amendments and we have reduced these rates of late fee. So as per latest amendment of GST Act, CGST late fee, that is the GST late filing penalty, has been reduced up to 20 rupees per day under CGST law and 20 rupees per day under SGST law. So total amount of late fee per day is applicable, that is rupees 50 per day. Okay, it is rupees 50 per day late fee for intra as well as interstate supply. Intrastate supply means what? Within the state. Interstate yani outside the state. So total amount of late fee is chargeable for filing of non-annual return is total is 50. Out of this total 50, 20 rupees is for CGST and 20 rupees is for IGST. So this is the late fee for non-annual returns. Non-annual returns means what? This return may be monthly return or quarterly return. Getting this? So how much amount of late fee I have to pay right now? Only 50 rupees per day. Now, GST late fees for annual returns. Annual returns means what? In case of GST are 9 form. So annual returns means what? Once in the year, this GST returns you have to pay. Now the late fee for of rupees 200 per day is levied upon the taxpayer. So in case of annual returns, amount is 200 rupees. Out of this 200 rupees, 100 rupees is as per CGST Act and 100 rupees as per the SGST Act that taxpayer has to pay. So total late fee is 200 rupees and this total late fee cannot exceed 0.25% of taxpayers total turnover. तो ये GST का लेट फी का अमाउंट 0.25% से ऊपर नहीं जाना चाहिए, तब तक we can charge late fees. Getting this? So this is the latest amendment as per latest amendment for annual GST return. कितना है? Total is 200 rupees and this total late fee amount should not be more than 0.25% of your total turn. So this is the late fee for annual returns. Getting this? After that, late fee for filing nil returns. Nil returns means what? You don't have a tax liability. Your tax liability will be 0, but you have to file the return. For 0% tax, you have to file the returns. Okay. So every registered taxpayer has to file the returns. If your tax liability, if your turnover is below 20 lakhs, if your turnover is below 20 lakhs, that time also, once you are registered as a registered taxpayer, you have to pay the GST returns. You have to file the GST returns. Now, nil returns means what? Your tax liability is 0, but also you are filing the return. तो उसको बोलते हैं nil returns. So the filing nil returns is mandatory even no GST payments are made to the income tax department. Okay, so your tax liability is 0, your tax liability is nil, but you have to submit this form. Agar if you fail to submit these forms of nil returns at that time, just see, in case of delayed filing of nil returns, a late fee of rupees 50 per day under CGST Act and rupees 50 under SGST Act, and total late fee per day for nil return will be rupees 100. Total late fee per day will be rupees 100. It was as per the previous Act 2017. Now, as per the amendment, what happened? This rupees 50, it was reduced up to rupees 10. So as per the CGST Act, rupees 10 will be charged per day, and as per the SG Act, rupees 10 will be charged. So total liability of penalty, total late fee will be rupees 20 per day for nil return. Getting this? So in case of nil return, total amount of penalty will be rupees 20. In case of annual return, total amount, 1 minute. In case of annual return, total amount will be rupees 100. Total amount will be rupees 200. And in case of non-annual returns, total amount will be rupees 50. So these are the late fees for non-annual returns, annual returns, and nil returns, which will be collected from the manufacturers as well as suppliers. Okay. Now next will be reverse charge mechanism under GST. Okay. So in this reverse charge mechanism, what will happen? So we know the normal process. That is, if supplier and receiver is there, at that time, if supplier is supplying goods and services to the receiver, at that time, supplier was supposed to pay the GST towards the government, and supplier was recovering that amount from the receiver. Getting this? It was the normal process. So in case of normal process, there are two parties. One is the supplier, other is the receiver. Supplier is supplying goods and services to the receiver, and receiver is collecting goods and services from the receiver, from the supplier. Getting this? In this case, what was the situation? Supplier was charging the GST towards the receiver. So entire amount means what? Cost of goods along with the GST. It was it was collected by the supplier, and supplier was supposed to make the payment towards the government. This was the normal process of normal charge mechanism under the GST. But in the reverse charge mechanism, क्या होता है? When supplier is providing such kind of goods and services towards the receiver, at that time, supplier will make the payment of only cost of goods sold, and whatever is the amount of GST, receiver has to pay. Receiver has to pay that amount towards the government. So in earlier system क्या है? Normal system में क्या है? Supplier will make the payment towards the government, and in reverse charge mechanism, receiver has to make the payment towards the government. So this is something about reverse charge mechanism. When this reverse charge mechanism will be applied, so it depends upon certain goods and services. If you are receiving certain amount of a specific goods and services, that time for certain goods or for specific goods, this reverse charge mechanism is applicable. So normal charge mechanism is applicable for all the goods and services except some goods and services. Normal में क्या होता है? Supplier will collect the rate of GST along with the cost of this product from the receiver. तो receiver क्या करेगा? Supplier जब invoice बनाएगा, तो invoice में amount of goods, cost of goods along with GST include होके receiver supplier क्या करेगा? Invoice बनाएगा, and this amount which is mentioned into this invoice, this amount will be charged or will be recovered from the receiver. Means what? It was not receiver's responsibility to pay GST towards the government. So in normal option, supplier has to pay tax towards the government. But reverse charge mechanism में क्या है? Receiver has to pay tax towards the government. Getting this? So supplier, how much amount supplier will recover? Only the cost. Only the cost of product supplier will charge from the receiver. And receiver will not transfer. Receiver will not transfer the amount of GST towards supplier, because supplier is not supposed to pay tax towards the government. Here, those person who is receiving goods and services from the supplier, he has to pay the tax towards the government. So that is nothing but that. This is nothing but reverse charge mechanism under GST. Okay. Now reverse charge mechanism कौन से products के ऊपर applicable होता है? So normal procedure all the goods and services के लिए है, लेकिन except some goods and services, वहां पे reverse charge mechanism of GST applicable होता है. So usually supplier of goods and services pays the tax on the supply. जो supply करेगा, because GST is the destination based tax. Getting this? So GST is the destination based tax. Those supplier who are supplying goods and services, जब supply करोगे तभी GST payment करना है. Getting this? So if I manufacture goods and services and if I don't supply goods and services, that time tax is not liable to me. Try to understand. मैं यहाँ पे मेरे फैक्ट्री में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करके कितने भी गुड्स रखे, तो जितना भी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग किया, तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के ऊपर मुझे टैक्स नहीं भरना है. कब भरना है? When I start supplying goods and services, when I brought goods and services outside my factory, At that time, I have to pay. Without paying GST, I can't transfer goods and services. So who is going to pay the tax? Supplier. Supplier is the person who sends goods and services towards the next stage. So this will be called as a supplier, and supplier has to pay tax before exiting your goods and services outside of your gate. Okay. Now in reverse charge में क्या होता है? Receiver has to pay the tax. In reverse charge mechanism, receiver becomes liable to pay the tax. Okay, so the chargeability will be gets reversed. तो इसमें चार्ज कौन करेगा? चार्ज किसके ऊपर करेगा? गवर्नमेंट रिसीवर के ऊपर करेगा. कौन सा है? So first condition is supply of certain goods and services specified under GST Act, that is the Central Board of Indirect and Customs. As per this, what is this criteria? As per the powers conferred in section 9(3) of CGST Act, Central Board of Indirect Tax and Custom has issued the list of goods and services on which reverse charge is applicable. So which are those goods? First is the BD wrapper, tobacco leaves, then raw cotton and the lottery. If we are receiving as a receiver, if we are receiving this kind of goods, if you are receiving the BD wrapper, if you are receiving the tobacco leaves, or if you are receiving the cotton, or if you are receiving the lottery tickets, at that time, as a receiver, I have to pay directly tax towards the government. In the rest of the goods, who is supposed to pay the tax? Supplier is supposed to pay the tax. But in case of certain specific 4 goods, which are the goods? BD wrapper, tobacco leaves, cotton, raw cotton, and lottery. During such kind of goods, receiver has to pay tax towards the government. Getting this? Now, supply from unregistered dealer to registered dealer. Unregistered dealer to registered dealer means what? Unregistered dealer is the dealer whose turnover is below threshold limit. Getting this? And he has not registered as a registered dealer under GST Act. If unregistered dealer is supplying goods and services to the registered dealer यानी जिसका turnover threshold limit के ऊपर है, and this registered dealer is receiving goods and services from unregistered dealer. Unregistered dealer कौन है? जिसको GSTN number नहीं मिला है. Try to understand. Unregistered dealer is the dealer who is not having registered under GST Act, as well as he has not received a GSTN number. Getting this? If the GSTN number is not available with this unregistered dealer, at that time, it is not liability on whom to pay the tax, to pay the GST. Getting this? So, as a registered dealer, if we are purchasing goods and services from unregistered dealer, at that time, as a registered dealer, I have a GSTN number. Getting this? So, whatever goods and services I will purchase, I will receive, this I will upload through GSTR form number 1. So here in this case, so statement of your goods and services, whatever you have purchased, this should reflect towards your GSTN network. So registered dealer has to pay GST. Okay. So if your supply is from unregistered dealer to registered dealer, at that time, registered dealer has to pay this tax towards the government. Receiver is your registered dealer, that's why this receiver has to pay tax. Okay. Now this means that GST will have to be paid directly by the receiver instead of the supplier. Reverse mechanism में क्या है? Normal mechanism में क्या है? Supplier has to pay the tax, and reverse mechanism में receiver has to pay the tax. Try to understand. Because whenever receiver is paying the tax, at that time, the registered buyer, that is the receiver, who has to pay GST under reverse charge, has to do self invoicing. तो उसको क्या करना पड़ेगा? खुद का इनवॉइस बनाना पड़ेगा. Whatever purchases he has made, on the basis of the purchases, he has to make the self invoicing, and this self invoicing will be uploaded through the GSTR1. Getting this? And he has to pay this tax towards the government. So in reverse charge mechanism, receiver or buyer has to pay tax. So first is that under this, so first is that supply of certain goods and services under the specified act under सेंट्रल बोर्ड ऑफ इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स एंड कस्टम. तो उन्होंने 4 गुड्स स्पेसिफाई किए हैं. पहला है बीडी रैपर, टोबैको लीव्स, रॉ कॉटन एंड लॉटरी. So in case of certain buyer, if these are the buyer who are purchasing these specific goods, then these buyers has to pay the tax towards the government. Then supply from unregistered dealer to registered dealer, at that time registered dealer has to pay tax because registered dealer is the receiver, registered dealer is the buyer, so he has to pay tax towards the government. So this is called as a reverse charge mechanism under GST. अभी देखिए न्यू GST रिटर्न सिस्टम. Now new, as per we have seen so many forms we have to fill, that is GSTR1, GSTR2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. इतने forms earlier tax system में थे. So by the entry of new GST tax return system, what happened? So there was the 31st GST council meet, and in this council meet, what was decided that they have prepared new GST tax return system under GST. It was introduced for the taxpayers. So this GST return system will contain simplified forms. Simplified forms they have adopted as per the amendment for comfort of filing across the taxpayers registered under GST. So with the help of this new GST tax return system, what we have done, we have made simplifications among the GSTR forms. Okay, under this new GST tax return system, there will be one main GST return system that is called as a GST RET1. RET stands for return. So this is the GST return form number 1. It consists of 2 annexures. The first annexure is GST annexure number 1, and second is the GST annexure number 2. So these 2 annexures are there in GST return form number 1. Okay, now this GST return will need to file on monthly basis. यो GST return form कब भरना है? Monthly basis पे भरना है, except for the small taxpayers. So GST return form number 1 will be paid or will be filed on monthly basis, okay, whose turnover is more than 5 crores. जिसका टर्नओवर 5 करोड़ से ऊपर है, उसको GST रिटर्न फॉर्म नंबर 1 भरना है मंथली बेसिस पे. जिसका टर्नओवर 5 करोड़ के नीचे है, उसको क्वार्टरली GST रिटर्न नंबर फॉर्म नंबर 1 भरना है. Okay, and this GST return form number 1 consists of annexure 1 and annexure 2. जो सेपरेट फॉर्म बनना हम लोगों को पड़ता था, तो इसका क्या किया, हम लोगों ने कंबाइन फॉर्म बनाया. That is something about GST return form number 1. So it consists of annexure 1 and annexure 2, and this will be filed on monthly basis if your turnover is more than 5 crores. If your turnover is less than 5 crores, then you have to pay on quarterly basis. Okay, so this is the amendment under 31st GST council meeting. Then the main return, GST return number 1, will consist of supplies made, input tax credit availed, and payment made of the taxes along with the interest. तो GST फॉर्म नंबर 1 में क्या क्या मेंशन है? सप्लाई, आपका इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट एंड पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्सेस along with interest. These all things are mentioned into GST return form number 1. अभी GST annexure number 1 and annexure number 2 क्या है? देखिए, this return will contains 2 annexures. GST return number form number 1 में क्या है? There are 2 annexures, annexure number 1 and annexure number 2. तो GST annexure number 1 क्या है? It is the statement of outward supply. It is the statement of आउटवर्ड सप्लाई, हम लोग अर्लियर क्या करते थे, वी आर सपोज टू फाइल GSTR1 and GSTR2. GSTR1 was related to your outward supply and GSTR2 was related to your inward supply. तो अमेंडमेंट में हम लोगों ने क्या किया, एक ही फॉर्म बनाया, उसमें एनेक्स्चर नंबर 1 रहता है आउटवर्ड सप्लाई का एंड एनेक्स्चर नंबर 2 रहता है इनवर्ड सप्लाई का. मींस व्हाट, देयर इज नो नीड टू फाइल टू सेपरेट फॉर्म्स, क्योंकि हर एक फॉर्म के अलग अलग डेट्स है फाइलिंग करता. तो हम लोग क्या करेंगे, as per these new amendments we have prepared only one form that is called as a GST return number 1. It consists of details of your supply, details of your input tax credit, details of your payment of supply. Along with this, it consists of two annexures. Annexure number 1 is related to your outward supply and annexure number 2 is related to your inward supply. So what happened, we have this GST council has skipped form number 2. तो GSTR number 1 and GSTR number 2 जो थे उसमें से हम लोगों ने एक ही फॉर्म बनाया, that is GST-RET1. Okay, it consists of annexure number 1 and annexure number 2. Then most of these details will be auto drafted automatically. Once we fill annexure number 1, ऑटोमेटिकली हमारा एनेक्स्चर नंबर 2 में वही डेटा कैरी फॉरवर्ड होगा, दैट इज कॉल्ड एनेक्स्चर ऑटो ड्राफ्टेड फ्रॉम द डिटेल्स अपलोडेड बाय द सप्लायर्स इन देयर एनेक्स्चर नंबर 1. तो ऑटोमेटिकली क्या हो जाएगा, एनेक्स्चर नंबर 2 में डेटा ऑटोमेटिकली कैरी फॉरवर्ड हो जाएगा. ओके, द रेसिपिएंट ऑफ सप्लाईज will be able to take the action on these auto drafted documents. Auto drafted यानी automatically form number 2 generate होगा on the basis of annexure number 1 which is uploaded by my supplier. Getting this? So what you have to do, you have to just check or you have to just correct whether it is correct or not. Getting this? And it will be available on real time basis. Real time basis means what, the day on which you are uploading your invoices, on the same day this will be auto populated towards your customers or towards your buyers. Okay, so as per the new GST amendment क्या हुआ है, we have only one form, that is GST-RET1, which consists of annexure number 1 and annexure number 2. Annexure number 1 is related to your outward supply, annexure number 2 is related to your inward supplies. Okay, inward supply means what you have inwarded उसकी एंट्री हो जाएगी and what you have outwarded उसका एंट्री annexure number 1 में हो जाएगी. Now what is the difference between current return system and new GST return system? देखिए, old return filing system and new simplified return system, if we compare this old and new, at that time new return system is more simplified as compared to old return system. So first thing is the pure turnover limit. In case of old return system, turnover limit was 1.5 crores. The taxpayer considered small if turnover is less than 1.5 crores. ओके, अगर उसको स्मॉल बोला जाएगा तो उसका रिटर्न्स कब भरना है, क्वार्टरली भरना है. द टर्नओवर लिमिट इन केस ऑफ स्मॉल कस्टमर्स और स्मॉल टैक्स पेयर विल बी 1.5 crores. अगर टर्नओवर मोर देन 1.5 crores है तो दैट टाइम दैट टैक्स पेयर विल बी कंसिडर्ड एज अ लार्ज टैक्स पेयर. But as per the new simplified tax return system, we have raised this limit. So those taxpayers whose turnover is लेस देन 5 crores, 1.5 crores से 5 crore तक लिमिट ले आया है हम लोगों ने. Those taxpayers whose turnover limit is less than 5 crores, these taxpayer will be considered as a small taxpayers, and being a small taxpayers they have to pay quarterly returns. And those taxpayers whose turnover is more than 5 crore rupees, these taxpayers will be considered as a large taxpayers, and being a large taxpayers they have to file monthly returns. Getting this? So this is the advantage of simplified tax return system in which turnover limit has been increased. Getting this? Next, As per the old tax return filing system, I have to pay GSTR1, GSTR4, GSTR5, GSTR6, and GSTR7. Means what? At least I have to pay 5 to 6 GSTR return forms. But as per the new tax system, what happened? We have replaced all these GSTR forms, and what I have to do? I have to fill only one form, that is GST RAT 1. RAT stands for return. GST return form number 1, which consists of two annexures, that is annexure number 1 and annexure number 2. Means what? There is no need to file separate returns forms. Okay, so we have saved our time, we have saved our cost as well. So this is advantage of new tax system. Then next difference is revenue invoices can be uploaded only at the time of filing of returns of outward supply. So revenue invoices we have to upload at the time of filing of returns. Outward supply का returns file करते समय I have to upload the revenue invoices. But the mechanism has been changed. The mechanism for continuous upload of revenues invoices on real-time basis. Real-time basis means what? Whenever it is happened on the same day, you have to upload your invoices. Try to understand. Earlier system में क्या था? जब हम लोग फाइल करने के लिए जाएंगे, that time I have to upload this revenue invoices. But on the basis of this simplified tax return system, the day on which you are generating the revenue, you are generating the invoice on the same date, you have to upload. This is called as on real time basis. Then input tax credit could be claimed on the self declaration basis. Old system में क्या था? ITC we will take ITC on the basis of self declaration, where declaration was on the basis of self declaration. But in case of newly tax system, input tax credit can be claimed based on the invoices uploaded by the supplier. आपका supplier जो कुछ invoice upload करेगा, on the basis of this you will get the input tax credit. Earlier system में क्या होता? I have to give the self declaration, I have to select it, and I have to get the input tax credit. But in this case, as per the invoices uploaded by your supplier, अगर आपके सप्लायर ने कुछ सप्लायर इनवॉइसेस मिस किया रहेगा, तो दैट यू कांट गेट इट्स इनवॉइसेस. So you will get the input tax credit on the basis of invoices uploaded by your supplier, not by you. Try to understand. Okay, so this is the one of the advantage. Then taxpayers have to fill GST return until their registration has been cancelled. जब तक उसका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल नहीं होता है, तब तक टैक्स पेयर को जीएसटी रिटर्न फॉर्म भरना जरूरी होता था. इवन इफ एन एप्लीकेशन हैज गिवन फॉर द कैंसिलेशन, कैंसिलेशन के लिए एप्लीकेशन दिया है, लेकिन जीएसटी काउंसिल ने अगर आपका एप्लीकेशन अप्रूव नहीं किया है, तब तक आपको जीएसटी रिटर्न फाइल करना कंपल्सरी था. बट अंडर दिस न्यू टैक्स सिस्टम व्हाट हैपन? Registration will now be suspended in case where taxpayer has applied for the cancellation. जिस दिन को आप लोग क्या करोगे, कैंसिलेशन के लिए अप्लाई करोगे, on the same date the registration will be suspended, and once the registration will be suspended, then taxpayer has not to file the returns afterwards. So this is the difference between old return filing system and new return filing system. Okay, so student, in this way we have finished 4th unit and we have left with last unit, that is the custom duty. Okay, so we have finished 4 unit. So PPT of this 4th unit I will mail you or I will WhatsApp you. Okay, so let us stop here. Thank you so much. Tomorrow we will have session at 8 p.m. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.